All right, guys, so this is the new version of Caretracker. There were a few reasons to make a new version. The original version was developed with the concept of let's cater to all of the needs that we have for CHC, for profiles, for care points. Like, it was just, let's make sense of our ministry from the lens of the AIM-CHC relationship. And so the new version, for me, I had a dream of making open source software that any ministry around the world could use. So I took some of the success of Caretracker and I kind of de-jargonized it so that any ministry could use it. So as we get in it, it might make a little bit more sense just seeing it. A lot of the benefit of this new version is in some background security measures, and then also there's a lot of new added HR functionality, as we're managing staff, that's pretty beneficial, we believe, to helping make HR easier and more productive for us. So here I've kind of gotten rid of the word CarePoint and instead just focused on the word program, because for me, it was nice to be able to think that, yes, our care points have children that we need to keep records of, but we also have a disability, disabled children program where it'd be nice for them to be able to keep track of child records separately. So this isn't a care point per se, but it is a program that we have kids that you might be interested in knowing more information about in a structured way. Also here we have Sport in Part. This is our sports ministry, 50 or more kids that they want to keep updated about, that we might be able to do some tracking of their records. Just the thinking goes, well, maybe there's more types of things than just a care point that you might want to store information about. Like we have Mdoni now, which is a big sustainability and leadership development project that, maybe we don't care about the actual child record part, but we care about some of the other features. So that was just kind of teasing this out so that maybe any ministry could use it and make it flexible so that, it's just more comprehensive and user-friendly. The other thing that was kind of getting away from us is we had different roles at the care point that kept shifting. So before we had fixed fields, but now you can just assign it as if they're like staff records. Yeah, so as we enter into a program like Balagani CarePoint, we have the photo. We can see some information, like we have our planning document, we have our base camp document, we know a little bit of what's going on at the care point in terms of ministry, who are we serving, how many. We have some historical information about a care point, which is very nice to be able to track that as you're kind of going. Some metadata. We might want to add accounts, like maybe we could add a water bill, a power bill, an internet line, and have some of the information actually attached to the program itself so that you can think of this as an actual profile itself that has information attached to it. A program can have different locations, like if you have a soccer program that has 5 different fields or different buildings. I just wanted to make the system flexible. We'll get into that in a minute. I can add staffing with customized roles. Sometimes what you have is a situation where a person is a coordinator, but they're a coordinator for multiple care points. So it's nice to be able to attach them in this way. Sometimes we have volunteers at a certain care point, so it's nice to be able to add them as a contact instead of a staff member and then attach them. So we get a little bit more information about this person, like their phone details, what makes them tick. So I wanted this so that we could keep tabs on what's actually happening at the care points, because it's very easy to get away from you. And then I have a project section, which we'll talk more about in a minute, and then a stories section. So this stories, these are very brief and basic. So we have a photo of a child and her story. So not super informative, but it's nice to be able to say, okay, these are some success stories. If we need to communicate, it's in its own spot, so you don't have to go hunt them down. And you wouldn't do everything in this way, just the things that you want to kind of memorialize for years and years and years. For most cases, you just use social media, but these are ones that you'd want to push to the partner in a way that has a little more life than an individual social media post. So let me go into a location record real quick. We have a lot of information here in two different formats. There's a survey form that's printable. So you can print this and take it and just do a survey on site. You could obviously just edit the record and do the same thing, but sometimes it's nice to have a paper version. And then this location profile, this is the closest match to my vision of how we could communicate a CarePoint online. We made these so that we could print information about a CarePoint if we wanted a new partner to jump on board, or if a team was in town, we could have this ready to present to them in person so that they could be reminded of what's going on at their CarePoint and why it matters. Yeah, when it's done loading, it pulls it up. I only have a black and white printer at my house, so that's why it's black and white, but you can see some information in a printout. We could also print to PDF that has a lot of just great, useful information about the CarePoint and who serves there and who helps, all in one go. This is kind of the vision. If you already need to store information, why not make it actionable? So we have some background information about the CarePoints, what's Eswatini itself, where's this CarePoint located with 2 Google Maps, that are actually dynamic. What's the community name? Where is the community in the region of the CarePoint? What's the GPS, the elevation? This is wrong, obviously. It's been a while since I've been in this. Probably want to read these over before sending them out. 1 feet is wrong, obviously. But then the distance from our Manzini base versus our Nsogo base, this is all really cheap, easy information to get, but it's impressive to a partner. And then we already have the CarePoint name, the region or the community name, and so we also have some flags like are they rural or not, and so we're able to dynamically pull in a different body of text based on some of the key indicators of an actual CarePoint. In the future, it'd be nice to pull actual images from each of the communities. That's the dream. And then this is the level of information that we're able to store on a CarePoint record. So we know how many buildings, if there's a church, what size, if there's fence, what type, a plot size that's actually measured, but to the partner we just say large or small, but it's actually like how many hectare or acres. Do we have clean water? Not only a borehole, but what type is it? How many actual liters of water can we store? Not only is there a garden, but how many hectare is it? And then we just label it so it's easy for the partner. Same with greenhouse, not just is there one, but what size. Not just is there irrigation, but what type. There's different power types. This one we can see is like a mixed power type, but it's damaged. So the partner knows that, hey, there's an issue that we could fix here. There's a very nice playground. We actually did expand this, but you're not seeing it yet. Not only is there size, but there's also type, because this is a nicer plastic playground, but we have some that are wood. So if it's a wood playground, it'll say wood. It'll say like small wood playground. Basic education is yes. If there's a library, we also say how big it is, and we measure that by the number of books, rough estimate. It's not relative to someone's, large or small. Curriculum, we have different options there. A computer lab, different options there. Different options for internet access. Skills training is an open field, so you can type anything you want. And then we're actually pulling in a cached, I said that we didn't implement profiles, but I still pull the data in from time to time. So I have a cached record of the profiles, a number of volunteers. That's ultimately the volunteers that you saw on the last tab of like who's actually there. I want to pull in dynamically. Staff is actually dynamic, and then we have kind of a how well does the community assist what we're doing? How well is it, or how easy is it to find resources at the CarePoint so that they're more sustainable? Have we installed anything that improves the sustainability long term? What's the industry look like in the community that we're serving, and then how rural is it? And then we have a little bit about our approach, and then we don't just say, okay, there's a small church, but we actually get as much information as we can. This is generated based on some of the details we've been given. But if we have an actual note it displays the note instead of the generated. The history, pull in that history that you saw earlier into this document. And then we have the ability to do markdown for what makes it special, what are the challenges. Actually, all of these are marked down. So I could bold or italic or potentially even add an image. And we have little bits and pieces where we're trying to add as much detail in as possible. This is actually pulled in dynamically from the volunteers. So this is a voice from the community. If we had multiple volunteers, it would pull multiple people here. These are our success stories, which you saw earlier. So we're just adding those in. And this is really why we want it, so that we can use it. You know, you wouldn't put every story that's ever happened in there, but you'd put the ones that you'd want to advertise. This is a little bit broken right now. Last time I did this, it actually pulled in the staff. So what you're seeing is what it looks like if it's not working, which is exciting because I'm demoing. Something always goes wrong. But you'd see the person's name, their role, and then as a CarePoint mentor, you'd see their name dynamically here. So it's nice to have good empty states, but normally this shows the actual image of each staff member. So not really sure what's going on there. Need to look at it. But then we're adding some advertisements for some of our other ministries with a dynamic photo that rotates, you know, some final strategy bits, and then like where to get more information. So this is a very valuable resource for when teams are in town. We can just pull something on the screen like this and walk through it with them. So, you know, this is new for 2020, so we haven't really had a chance to use this yet, but this is something that I'm really excited about. It's too bad we've been derailed with COVID. So that's a location record. The thinking is we could pull a different one of these for each of the locations based on the information that was provided. Now going back, you know, instead of having just one partner in a single field, you know, that you're attributing to, I wanted to do partners more like we did staff and volunteers, where you could add multiple partners in, which, you know, you guys, there's no way I'm going to develop that now with WM Tech, so thank you. You don't have to worry about that. You know, I wanted to be able to add photos. These photos would be what you saw in the location report. And then even I want to be evaluating our planning documents, you know, how well we've done time over time. So if I view this was done late last year, you know, how well was it completed? Was it intentional? Was it professional? So I wanted to do our planning and reporting, and we're actually analyzing, you know, from someone on staff, just reading the reports, you know, how well did we do? Or maybe that's the supervisor or mentor at the CarePoint that's analyzing our planning document and our reporting documents, so that we can see how we're doing over time. Because this is how you know, this is a lead measure, an indicator of how a partner might perceive us, because, you know, these are low scores, so we obviously didn't try very hard in our planning document. So we would have a reporting feature here later. We're doing all the scoring for that somewhere else. It's just in a Google Doc, so we just add it right in, so it's all kind of like a dashboard for each of your programs. And then projects is a big thing. This is not done at all, but this is my vision for projects. With CHC, we were given a mandate that if a project cost more than $5,000 US, we had to fill in a very detailed form that was multiple pages. And what I found when I was going through it is a lot of the details of that form could just all be filled in automatically. Being out, the staff member who is normally over projects and going through their computer trying to find all their historical records, and there were none. Just thinking, man, we need to do projects completely differently, because we have no record of any of our past projects, what they cost, how timely they were done, photos. You know, we might have a little bit of information in Basecamp. It's more reporting in Basecamp. It's not even the planning documents or the cost documents. So there just seemed to be a huge disconnect. Maybe I could take a stab at it. So what I thought was, we can have projects that are ongoing that would look sort of like a task. So it would be, you know, what is it? How complete is it? Are there any comments or photos that you want to add to the project to update its status? And then I wanted to create something like a template so that we could just completely get rid of all of the labor-intensive forms and upfront planning documents by just doing a template. So I have 2 templates here that are pretty much done. The wire fence is a more complete template, but basically when you add a new project, you would say, do you want to build it from a template, kind of like, I guess, an email marketing campaign where you build from scratch, or from a template. If I go into here on like the wire fence, it's kind of like a wizard. So what's the template name? What's the project name? What's the billing code? What type of project is it? Is it new? Is it a development, demolition, purchase, repair, whatever? What sector does it fall in? And this is more like vision for the partner. Are we building infrastructure? Are we building government, family development, education, what have you? What's the priority level of this? For a fence, that's a pretty high priority because that affects security. Who's it benefiting? So we have a whole bunch of different options here that just helps us target, basically just decide how valuable is this project and who does it benefit and how. So we want to make this template as detailed as possible so that when we just start it, we have a lot of great information up front. To make the template possible, I have this markdown open text field, and I'm using keywords like variables that I'll use regex to replace with the actual project's name. So it'd say wire fencing provides a low-cost maintainable solution and added security to all of, let's just say, Balagane's projects, implements, and structures. It'll keep stray animals and children away from any proposed Balagane garden projects. So it makes it look like we spent a lot of time writing this content. It'll pull in the project duration. It'll pull in the program name. If I go over to benefits, we have these 20 questions here, but we're answering them in a template form instead of one by one for each project. We have other variables here like community name. This could all be done a lot more user-friendly, but when you're a single developer, you just do what works. So you can see we had our 20 questions here that are all really detailed and useful, but would just seriously bog us down if every time we wanted to do any project at all, you had to have all this information. A lot of it's something where you can use a template and then slightly tweak it, and you've saved just dozens of hours of work over a course of a year, doing that. So, we have project duration, how long will it take? What level of ongoing commitment is needed for this project? This is something we do pretty poorly at, managing expectations for us and the partners. Not because we don't know it, but because we don't communicate it. How long will it be operational? And then we have SMART goals, that we could even potentially do something interesting with these, like, have you completed your SMART goals? It's not developed, so who knows? What's needed to ensure these goals are achievable? Expected outcomes. If you complete on time and on budget, you have 3 outcomes that you expect. What's needed to ensure they're achievable. So if you go over to setup, this is where we're actually putting in the costs and the specific details. This is something we'd expect after each time you do a fencing project. You would update the project itself, and then you'd go back and update the template because the costs would change. So I'm going to go into these. Okay, we have a materials cost. I'm going to go ahead and say edit. So we have that materials cost here again, but now we have individual line items and notes and costs and quantity. And if I change the quantity, we can see it's changing the subtotal, the total here, and the total here. And I'm going to change this here from gas, and now we can have line items that have totals for each line item, and then total for each category, and then total for each overarching category. So this was going to help us build in a way that we could do an invoice for CHC, for AIM, and for our own records. And then I've exposed the way that the actual data that goes in looks so that you can copy and paste it. So I could copy this and actually paste it into a different area. To make things fast, I have a separate table that you can grab these from, and you can edit all of the default values for these. And so it's something that you could do from your phone pretty easily, because all this is responsive and works on a phone as well. So I'm going to go back to material cost. So the same thing I just showed for material cost, we can do for supplies. It's the same exact thing. It's just different stuff in here. So if I go paint, this is where we would find the actual supplies versus materials. If we go back, there's tools in this section, like a bush knife. There's transportation costs, right? There's labor cost, there's security cost, training cost, curriculum cost, and then some clarifications if the notes and all the other areas weren't enough. And then we're taking all of these subtotals and totaling it into a master total, applying a current exchange rate that's editable, and then giving a total in US dollar. And then you can even change the project fees so that we know which client this is for and how it would work. And so this is all based on the underlying formulas that each person is using. And so we know what the service fee would be and then the actual total estimated cost. So you can see a lot of broken down information. And we'd have this, the great thing is we'd have this for every single project that was ever done, which we can't even come close to that right now. So we have some ongoing needs, and the ongoing needs has the same exact breakdown. What's nice about these is you don't have to actually go through this whole thing. It's been designed that you can just type a number here and it'll accept it, but it'll overwrite that number if you add line items. So we can be as detailed or as fast as we want to be, and the system will just work. Again, there's clarifications, and then we have the total, the subtotal, a partner portion of the subtotal. This concept is something I was playing with, that we can have this and we can say, well, the partner is responsible for 80%, or 15%, but the community is responsible for the other portion. So this is about where I ended up on this development. So this section is incomplete. That's why it's not working. And then I have why is ongoing maintenance required. Looks like we have a misspelling. So all of this whole thing that I've shown you is just a template. So if I go back, I would now be able to add a new project and use this wire template, and everything you saw would be applied to my new project as it was from the template, but it would change those variable values into Balagane instead of program name, and Ngawini instead of community name, and so that it would look like we had this very detailed, customized approach to doing projects for the partners, when all we really did was keep a fairly good database of tools, supplies, and costs up to date, and then our templates up to date. What this does is it also gave, in my mind, when we lost our projects guy, all of his knowledge went with him, because there was like nothing on his computer, no training documents, no nothing, right? So this would allow you to see the person's thought processes, and all the work that they did would stay in a system where you could access it later. So this system was trying to combat paperwork and help anyone who's in that role understand what their predecessor was thinking and how they made decisions, while also giving our staff and our partners a historical log of the projects that had happened. So if we went back to the dashboard for the program, we would see every project here that was ever done with their completion statuses and all the information that they would need to see. You know, if they entered that project, they would see any specific updates through the stages along with photos, and it would all just be in one spot. So that was my vision for, if you want to have a program that you're running and you want to be able to train staff quickly and allow your staff in country and your staff out of country to all come to the same conclusions about your data and how things are all working, you need to have a system where it's just a one-stop shop. So that's kind of the vision and what I've been up to with this. I don't know what WM Tech is able to do or what you guys are interested in doing. I think this system would be great for the majority of your clients, if it's something you were interested in developing for them. If you want, I could show you guys the HR sections, but I know that we're on time constraints, so I don't want to take all of the time. But I appreciate you guys walking through this with me. Thanks.